Hello and welcome back to Railroads Online. We're back here on the Crystal Lake Railroad, and we're going to be revisiting the building mechanic in this game, as I've received a little bit of feedback that the actual building mechanic video that I did earlier, as episode 3, was a bit difficult for people to watch, and I've also noticed that it is not doing so well in the uh, analytics. But I'm not really surprised. I kind of glazed over a lot of things and didn't really do a in-depth exposition as to what I was doing and why. So that's kind of what we're going to be doing today. We're going to be getting a little bit more in depth as to what each thing is that I'm using in game, what each or my reasons for why I use what I use, and why I do what I do, as well as showing a better example of how things work in the game. I recorded that, and I said this in a previous video, I recorded that video twice before the footage that you guys got here on YouTube. And I had recording issues on the first one. So by the time I got to actually editing that video and posting it, I was wore out and kind of in the mindset of I just want it out there. I want it to be out there. And I didn't do my due diligence in making sure that it was a good video. And I do apologize for that, first and foremost. So we're gonna be correcting that mistake. We're gonna be hopefully doing a little bit better on this video. Um, so the plan is today to go ahead and, instead of working some more over in the meatpacking plant area, which is built out to a fairly decent extent, it could use more, and like any good model railroader, a model is never complete. Uh, it could always use more. We're going to go over to the water well and wheat farm area, this little valley up in here, and we're going to see what we can do about connecting it to the cattle farm, which is over here all by its little lonesome. Now you're going to see the industry we've got here, the smelter, um, is actually far downhill from the cattle farm and is not really uh, it's not really in a good spot to just go ahead and connect it up to the rest of the line yet. What we're going to ultimately end up doing, and I know you guys can't see my mouse, so I don't know why I'm circling everything. Uh, what we're going to end up doing is we're going to go from the smelter down and connect up all of these industries separately over time throughout the throughout the map. We're gonna take our time and we're gonna get through all of that. But for today, we're just gonna settle on the cattle farm. Now I don't know what kind of yard I plan to build on the cattle farm. I don't know whether I'm gonna put a loop in or a roundhouse. I don't know yet. We're probably not gonna get to that today. Right now, my main goal is going from this switch right here, this one that's moving here on screen. Oops, let's go ahead and put that back in line if we need it. To take from that switch and go around the valley that we're in here. And I found a little gully where we can turn the line around and start back up these mountains and kind of come into this plateau here that the cattle farm is on. So that's the plan for today, and I'm going to try and get a little bit more in depth as to what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, and the pieces that I use. I'm going to be I needed that back actually. Um, I'm going to be explaining my process just a little bit more so that we actually make a little bit of progress and we have a better video. Because truthfully, I'm getting kind of bored of doing offline running sessions to accumulate rolling stock for this area, which I was working on yesterday. And get my fly mode here, and you can see we've actually got a little bit of rolling stock built up. Uh, I did a little bit of work over here. I think I said yesterday. It was actually it was within the last couple of days. Uh, but I put another yard in over on the other side of this other side of this coal tipple, and just kind of cleaned this up a little bit. Evened out the radius on this, gave it a little bit of a shallower grade, so that now smaller locomotives with less tractive effort can actually make it up that hill. It's a little bit longer of a run up, but it's a shallower grade instead of a 2.5, almost 3% grade from the water tower on up to the top of that little hill there. It's a 1 to 1.5. So before we get started on any building, I wanted to go ahead and show you guys, and I kind of locked myself in there. I want to go ahead and show you guys our latest two acquisitions here to the line. Is our logging locomotives. Number 2, Clyde, or Heisler. And number 1, Rattling Tom, our Shay. Now this is one of the 3 starting locomotives, so it has the least tractive effort of these 2 locomotives, despite the fact that it is like the Heisler here and the Climax Pete, a logging locomotive. It has the least tractive effort, so it's not going to be able to haul a lot up a hill, which is perfectly fine. Once I'd found out what it was actually capable of off camera, I went ahead and designated it a switching locomotive. So that's pretty much what I've been working up to in a nutshell. We do have some more funds available for more rolling stock. I need to do a little bit more running, but that's why we're building out the line today, so that I've got something to do that's not running up and down the switchbacks every day, or running the logs to the sawmill every day. I wanted to do something a little bit different, and since we don't have a depot over here, we can build one up on the plateau, where we can build out this area here, which would mean altering some portion of this loop to accommodate this little valley right here, and make it so that we can have a depot in here that we can actually sell goods. We don't have to run down the mountain every time to the central depot. That central depot is there for the industries that are closest to it, such as the meat packing plant, the oil field, the logging camp, and the sawmill. For the smelter and the ore mine, that's going to be a longer run. That's going to be a much longer run to get back down the mountain. We're probably going to end up going around the top left corner of the map to get around all of that. But it should be fairly easy in comparison to having to run up and down the switchbacks every time just to deliver 5 or 6 cars. We can actually get a rake of 10 or 12 if I do the sloping right up and down the mountain, once we get the largest locomotives we can. So what we're gonna, like I said, what we're gonna do is we're gonna come over to this area of the loop, and we're going to start building out, going around the edge of the valley and up into a little gully that I found, a little hollow. And we're going to build out a line that goes up to the cattle farm. So that once we get, and I'm messing with the map right now trying to figure out what I want to do down here in this little portion of the valley that's centered on the map right now. Um, Once we get that built, we can figure out what we want to do for the depot yard here, and potentially later on a second depot up here with a town. And I'm kind of thinking over in this area here, just to kind of give it a little bit of a short run, just to give a little bit of realism, which is one of my main um, goals for this game, for this series. So with that, and since I've rattled on long enough, how about we go ahead and come over here, and I'll just give you the basic rundown of the idea that I've got. Okay. So I put this. You'll notice from the last video where we did a running session where I was on this loop, I've put another switch in. Well, that's for a good reason. I've come through here several times and looked at the topographical uh, layout of this little valley right in here, and have found that this is probably the best spot to start a spur line that goes up to that cattle farm. So what we're going to try and do is we're going to try and work our way. We're probably not going to dive in there, but we're going to work our way around and head on up the mountains, and we're going to come around. We're just going to keep working our way around, working our way up in elevation. Helps if I can do that too. And we're just going to come right around over here to this little hollow. Now, this little hollow looks like a pretty good spot where we could put a turnaround in, so we won't have to do any sort of switchback maneuvers like we did on the way up to this valley. And then we're going to come back around, and by the time that we get back over, yep, that's what I thought. By the time we get back over to this portion of this valley in here, we're going to actually be at a point where we can go a couple of different ways. We can either go across this gully right here, or we can go out and around and work our way up to the plateau from this side and come in from the back side of the cattle farm, which you'll notice is not too very far away from the smelter. So if we run our way around this back side to the back side of the cattle farm and come in this direction, we actually have the option of being able to run some sort of line around to get down to the smelter. Now that's not really something that I'm planning for, because you can actually see the difference, and it's a pretty sharp, stark difference between the cattle farm and the smelter. We are rooftop height with the actually we're a bit higher. We are smokestack height with the smelting yard. So we actually would not have too much of a way to get down here quickly and easily. But we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Another way that we could go, and I'm going to elevate myself here a little bit. Another way that we could go is through the back side of this plateau. There's a little canyon. Now we can work our way through this canyon on our way up to the top of the plateau if we cross that little gully back here in the valley. But the ultimate goal is to reach the top of the plateau without doing any switchbacks. Now, this is probably going to be a single line at best. I might be able at some point to turn it into a double line, but there's really not a good spot for a switch in either of those situations. But I'll explain that here in a bit when and if we get to the point where we use switches. So, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to come over here to this dead switch here, and we're going to go into our build menu. And we've got several options, obviously, of different types of rail. We're going to ignore the vast majority of this for right now. We're going to focus on this one here, rail track. Now, when you click on that, you come over here and you've got a number of different options. Again, with and without snow and with and without ballast. Since it seems to like to rain more than snow on this map, we're going to stick with the ballasted track. And if I absolutely need to, for some portion of the build, somewhere on the map, we will go with the ballast without track. We will not, on this map, need the ones with the snow at all. So, we're going to go over here, and the numbers here are how much ballast is underneath the track, how high it can go above the ground. Low ballast, medium ballast, high ballast. Okay, this is 1 meter, 5 meter, 10 meter. So, we're going to go ahead and link this track up, which is made evident by that little chain link that you see highlighted in yellow there. And we're going to go ahead and start building. Now, you can see already we've got some spaghetti going on here, and that is because we are in free laying mode. Now, that's a bad mode to be in for any sort of realism, for any sort of accuracy. What we want to do is be in precision mode. And notice, I can move the camera anywhere I want. Hopefully you're not throwing up by now. I can move the camera anywhere I want, and that track's going to stay right there. So that's precision, or precise mode, which you can see down there, number 1, precise. And next to that, on the right side, you've got your length in meters. On the left, and moving left, you've got your grade, which if I use my arrow keys up and down, I can change the grade in percentage points, 0.5% at a time. The next one to the left is your working grid, and that's the number of steps that your track is going to take, or your building, or whatever, when you turn it, or when you rotate it, or when you add a radius in. So right now it's sitting at 10 steps. If I hit 0 on my number pad, which it will, if it depends on your settings, it might be the same, it might be different. I can change that number to 100 or 1, but I try to stick to 10. It's a little bit more of an easy number for me to deal with. And then on the far left, you have the radius meter, or the radius indicator, which right now is sitting at 0 meters. That is dead straight. And you can go from 0 to 1,000, either plus or minus 1,000, all the way down, all the way down to 30 meters, plus or minus. And 30 meters is the tightest radius that you're going to get in this game. It doesn't go any tighter, and it doesn't go any wider than 1,000 meters. You can either get straight 1,000 meter or anywhere in between that and 30 meter. Now, I tend to limit myself to between 40 and 120 meters for tight turns. So we're going to go ahead and show you that now. We're going to go over here to 120. Oop. And that's what I consider a tight turn. Okay. Anything tighter than that, is approaching difficulty for a locomotive of any size, except dock handlers, which would be more akin to the porters or the small tank engines, could handle this. But I tend to stick between 60 and 120. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to start laying track. So what I'm going to do, since I want to go ahead and come out and around, is I actually do not want to start by just jumping right over to the wall of the valley. I want to go ahead and put it as close as reasonable to this switch face here, this throw lever. So we want to put it right about there, right about there. And I want to start building my height immediately, so I'm going to go ahead and put let's do a 0.5% grade. Boom. Just like that. All you got to do is click to place, left click to place, and you're good to go. Now, you're going to notice the changing number here on the left side down at the bottom. And that is your compass degrees. So you've got 90 degrees here, which is due south. You've got, west, north, east, all that. That's not really something you need to be concerned about unless you're trying to put something in some serious serious precision where it needs to be absolutely nuts on. It has to be absolutely perfect for where you're planning to put it. So I went ahead and I straightened that out. Now you will notice there's where we started. Okay. Now if you don't click away, if you don't cancel it out like I just did, if you don't click away, all of your settings, see I've got to put my gradient back in. All of your settings will remain the same. So since we clicked out, I had to put my gradient back in. And we're going to try and build this out a ways. So let's see. And I'm looking at the possibility that because we are not doing switchbacks, we might want a I'm trying to find the word. Conventional locomotive, that's the word, to go over these rails. So we want to keep the radius fairly open, and we want to keep the gradient fairly low, fairly easy for a locomotive to handle. Now you're going to notice occasionally, if you're building this and you're paying as much attention to detail as I do, that at a certain point you're going to start to get an underclipping for specific depths of ballast, like you can see here. And this is why I said that there's not really a good place on our line that we're going to be building today where a switch could go, because I don't like looking at this underclipping. To me, it's shoddy. It looks like crap. So you're going to notice that, and then not too very far after that, you're going to see that the tracks turn red. Well, that is because it's too high up off the ground. It's no longer supported. So one, you've got the underclipping. Two, you're reaching the point where the ballast is no longer touching the ground at all. which means that you're not supporting your track. So you don't want to you don't want to do that, and you don't want to be too unrealistic. So you just come back here to where it starts to fan out a little bit, and go ahead and put that in. Now, like I said in my first video, this may change uh, by the time we get it done, but I just wanted to give you an example of what we were looking at in terms of, laying the track, where the ballast was, and what it did at a certain point, which is, why I explained I don't want it. I don't think there's really a good spot to use a switch. Now we can come over here and we can just use the embankment with the higher. I think there's no ballast. Okay, so we can go in and add the ballast manually, but I prefer not to do that. I prefer to have a little bit more streamlined use. Since we're coming over here to a bit of a dip, we're actually going to go into our bridges, which I just clicked on. You can see wooden trestle bridge there. We click on the bridge and do that for the turntable, and come back to the bridge just to show you what I was doing. And we're going to go over here to wooden trestle. Now there's several different bridges used, and I think I described a little bit of it in one of my previous videos. But I prefer to use this particular style of the wooden trestle. It doesn't have the walkway on it, but that's okay. We don't particularly need it at this height, and by the time we get to a point where we would need it, we would be better off using the steel girder anyway. But at the moment, since I've taken so long to explain, just the basics of what I'm getting ready to do here, I'm going to go ahead and cut and wait for the sun to come back up. I've adjusted the settings so that nighttime only takes about a minute, and we've got 30 minutes of daylight to build at any point in time. So when the sun comes back up, I'll go ahead and I'll build this bridge, and I'll get back to you at that point. Alrighty, so with the sun coming back up here, we've got a fresh 30 minutes to build. So I'm going to go ahead and bring this around, and I've got to remember to keep my 0.5% grade in. But you'll notice that even with that 0.5% grade, we start running into the ground. Now that's not too big of an issue. We're actually planning on increasing our grade at a certain point anyway, so let's go ahead and do that here. And I'm going to tighten up the radius just a little bit. We're going to go to 140, and we're going to come around to, let's see, actually we should probably consider tightening it up just a little bit more, but I think we'll be okay for now. Actually, you know what? While I'm thinking about it, we may want to go ahead and jump over to the side of this canyon, or this valley here. So we're going to go ahead and come in here and delete this. Okay, so let's see. All right, so we're going to delete that. Come back in here with our ballasted track, and we're going to actually send our radius the other direction. So we want our radius, let's give it about a 90-meter radius. See if we can actually increase it out a little bit as we go. And we'll use that little hollow there to turn ourselves in the opposite direction. Let's go ahead and stay at 120 meter. Okay, so that's not too bad of a jump right there off to the side. And we're going to go ahead and go back in with our bridge that we started to make a minute ago. And we're going to come up and we're going to just kind of see where we can get here. We'll go ahead and increase the radius out a little bit more. Starting to get to there. It turned green, so we haven't buried ourselves. Now we're going back the other direction. Let's see what we can get for. Oh dear. Okay. Let's go ahead and put this back in with slightly higher radius, or not higher radius, but higher, steeper grade, and do 1%. And a lot of building the line is uh, trial and error. It's finding out what you can and can't do uh, while you're building. So this may not even work. We may have to shallow it out a little bit more and go around a little bit shallower of an angle. Let's come back over here to our bridge. And we didn't cancel out, so we've still got our 1% grade. We just need to go in the opposite direction for our radius. And that's starting to look a little bit better. We may have to put it up to a 1.5% grade, but that's not too bad. We can do that for a short distance. And yes. Now I've done that specifically. I'm not going to try and put it in there, but I've done that specifically to show where our track might be going. So we can do that. A little bit of a short distance there, I think we can manage. Let's go ahead and bring it right here. And we're going to go back into our menu and get our ballasted track back. And we're going to see, oh, we can't do that. Okay. Let's see where we can go to where it won't be buried. Not very many places. All right. Well, shoot. I guess we got to start over again. Let's go into our delete menu here. Our demolition page here. And we've got our little wheel here, which is center mouse. We've got delete or demolish, re-rail, like sawing trees down, lumberjack. I don't know why they call it that. We've got a instrument here. I can't think of the name of it right off the top of my head, but it measures the height difference between one point and another. And we've got our fly mode, which is what we're in now. We've also got our copy paste, which we will never need. It is much more hassle than it's worth, and it's just not something that we would need. So we're going to actually come back here, get rid of this. Helps if I get my camera to work here. And we're going to come back in and try again. So we're actually going to do 1% this time. Come back in to where we are right up here next to this lever, and we'll put that in. Okay. So let's see what we can do about getting over here where we want to go. You'll notice we've already reached our limit, our maximum limit, after which we start clipping. We start clipping out. So let's go ahead and get ourselves our desired radius here. I think 120 will be okay. And go back into our bridge. Get our favorite bridge here. And let's see what we can do. We're still going to have to find out where we can go. But it'll be a little bit easier now that we've started climbing a little bit earlier. So let's see. What can we do? Well, let's just go straight. Oh, let's not. Let's come over here a little further. 200-meter radius. Let's see what this will do for us. Back into our low ballast. And start the curve around. And you'll notice that we've already got less of a problem than we had before. Now we just need to figure out where we can go. And that's already too tight. So, let's go ahead and increase it out. And we'll just take up another 0.5%. Now we're going to have a stronger locomotive hauling things up and down this line. So I think we can have a little bit steeper of a grade. But you'll notice this is the kind of issue that we run into. So let's see what this looks like right about here. Nuts. It's a little too deep. We had a little bit of an issue, if you remember, in a previous episode where we had the track buried over by the lumber or the lumber yard, where we actually derailed the Montezuma. So let's go ahead and let's see what we can do about getting this to work the way we want it. I don't think we're going to be able to go that far. Over into this little area here. So we'll go ahead and put it there. And here's where this little sawmill or this lumberjack tool comes in handy. And I think it's kind of weird that they use the same tool for trees and rocks, but there you go. We're just going to get that rock right out of the way. Now we're going to come back here to build mode and back to our low ballast track. And we'll see what we can do. Now that's already not too bad of a area, and we can ease off the slope a little bit, bring it around. In fact, we can. I don't want to do that. We can ease off the slope just a touch, bring it over here, and it's not buried. The track's not buried anymore. So let's go ahead and tighten up our radius. We're going to take that slope out entirely for a minute. And we'll just see how far we can go here. What we can do. Now this is just a planning strip. Okay. So we can do that. Alright. So let's go ahead and put that in there. And we'll go back to our bridge. And a lot of the building is doing just this, back and forth between one tool and another, without really that ought to be interesting. Let's do something a little different here. Let's stop right here. It's a lot of jumping back and forth without a lot of variation in the tools that we use. So we're going to come over here to the wall selection, and we're going to select wall with rails. Now the reason I want to do this is because we're on the side of a little hill here, and instead of using ballasted track, which is fine over in that area where the ground is mostly flat or flat enough, we would want something that in real life would not wash away as easily. So we want to come over here with our wall And we want to straighten this out a little bit, see how far we can get with it. We're not going to go straight because it cuts too much into the track. But we can come over here and tighten up our radius a bit, and we'll do an 80 meter radius, and we'll go ahead and click that. And there's not a lot of height to that, but there doesn't need to be. And you can kind of see it. It's still not really buried. It just kind of gives it a little bit more of a grown-in feel. Like it's been a long time since this line has been put in. So we're going to come back down here to our bridge, get our wooden trestle, and we're going to go back to that. Now we really don't have to. In fact, I don't think we will. I think what we're going to do is, like I said, I wanted to find a place where I can make this a dual line. Well, we're going to try to do that here. So we've got a couple of different options for switches. We've got a right-hand switch, a left-hand switch, and a three-way. Now the three-way stub switch, the stub switch three-way as it's listed here, is actually a fairly interesting thing in narrow gauge. And what it does is it actually moves the rail instead of a sliver of the rail that is specially designed to change the direction of the train travel. It actually moves the whole track by itself. So we can take a look here and just show you what I'm talking about. And you can see the as it's set now, the track curves off to the left for that far left track. And when you switch the track to either the center line or the right line, that whole line will move. The whole track will move. Oops. Let's go back to our build menu. Whereas with the switches, and we'll just use the left switch here as a example. You can see there's a sliver of track that actually sits on a pivot, and when you flip the lever, that little pivot helps the two little slivers of track slide one direction or another, and that changes the track for the locomotive versus having the whole track itself change. So let's see, what can we do here? I'm actually not sure I want to turn this into a two-line at this point, a twin line like what we have. So we're going to go back in here with our ballast, and we're going to give ourselves the 1%. And we're going to go just as far as we can. We're still trying to make height here, so we'll just keep on with that. Be about there. That's a pretty good spot to stop. Come back down here to our bridge. Now we do have other options, like I said, and by the time you get to the point where you kind of need a catwalk, you're better off just going with the steel trestle. The steel truss bridge, like I said in a previous episode when I was showcasing the switchbacks, these act like switches in one regard, and that is that they completely negate any sort of slope that you have in the track to begin with, whereas the wood trestle, the steel girder trestle can all be put in with a slope built in. And I'll come back for that rock in a minute. I know somebody will say something about it. So let's see what we can do about building out length a little bit. Now, you'll notice as I'm going, at a certain point, I swap it for a wider radius, and that is because there's only so far that you can build before you need to extend it out a bit again to get more length. And you'll notice here that it's kind of not wanting to go any further than that. So we swap it out again and it'll go even further. But that's kind of a mechanic that I don't really know how to explain. But it works for what it is. So we're actually going to come around here. I think what we're actually going to do is we're going to try and hug the canyon or the valley wall a little bit more. So let's see. Go ahead and delete that. That looks all right. We can change that, or we can alter our radius here. Put our slope back in. Dar, just like that. And yes, I said it like that deliberately. Okay, so let's go ahead and put that in there. So we're at a 1% grade. We are at building height. We're going to go back in here to lumberjack mode. I think we might need it here. No, we don't. Okay. I thought we did, but we don't. And we're going to come back to our bridge. And we're going to go ahead and keep building our height. But we're going to start wrapping it around. You saw me try to do that earlier. We're going to start wrapping it around. Now, we're not going to do that all in one continuous curve. I mean, we could, but it's not really something that we really need to do. We can actually take our time, make this a longer run, and build off into this direction so that we're actually running along the wall instead. We're running along the valley wall instead. So you notice we're already starting to get some height going here. And by the time we get it back over there, we should be about the right height to start the turnaround. This is about the tightest radius I want to give this, which is going to limit the size of the locomotive that we can actually haul anything with. So we may actually come back to this retaining wall that we put in earlier and adjust our angle here. Let's see what we can do about getting it just a little bit further over. Gonna give ourselves our 1%. Gonna try. May actually do it like this. Yeah. Oh, whoops. Okay. Let's go ahead and do that. Still not buried. We can come back into it with our ballasted track. And we've still got our 1% grade, so we can actually start making this a little bit here. Let's see how far we can get here. Yeah, okay. I'm going to get rid of that rock real quick. I don't know if it's going to cause a problem, but for right now, it would be better if we didn't have it in there. Go ahead and give ourselves an 80-meter radius. Bring it out about as far as we can go. Go back in with our bridge. And I think I've already explained why I use this bridge, but for me it's a little bit more aesthetically pleasing than using a steel girder or the steel truss in this portion or in this context. Or in the context of low terrain versus very, very deep gorges that we go over like we did with the loop. Uh, but you know, it's just kind of a personal preference. So we are here looking at where we can put this, where we actually want to start turning to go around the outer edge of the valley. So we're going to go ahead and do that. We're going to adjust our radius to accommodate. And we're going to go right about there, I think. Bring it out a little bit further. We're going to go in with a retaining wall. Now, the reason I don't go with the ballasted track on something like this is because this retaining wall actually won't, if it were real, it wouldn't wash away, which is ultimately what we're trying to avoid. So I've increased our radius, or I've decreased our radius to 60. We're going to go ahead and just leave that like that. It's not going to be a long section by any manner or means, but it doesn't need to be. Now we come back in here to our bridge, and we continue on. We can actually bring our radius out a little bit and see where this gets us. That gives us a little bit of a play to, yeah, okay, and that would be a good spot to bring the retaining wall back in. So we're going to stop right there, and I'm going to go ahead and cut these trees out. Now normally when I build on a map, I tend to just leave the trees until I'm done building, but we're not going to do that today. We're going to go ahead and get these trees cut out. And the mechanic on this is pretty janky as to how the hitbox goes, but it's fairly straightforward. You just bring open the tool with your scroll menu, which is this tool here, and it'll give you this little saw icon. And you go and you cut and you just click on the trees or the rocks. You just do that as many times as you need. We're going to give ourselves a little bit of room here. Yeah, see, it's trying to cut the bridge, and I don't want to cut the bridge. Yep. Even this little guy might cause a derailment, so the way he goes. And you just got to find any of them that you can that will cause a problem. We're going to come back in here later and cut those out too. But you also want them to be far enough away from the track that you're not going to hit them going by it. So this one would actually have to go. Everything else I think is okay for now. Yep, that looks all right. So we're going to come over here, and we're going to grab our retaining wall. Now this is why, this is one place where I would say, you know, you don't want to use the ballast at all. And that's probably fairly self-explanatory. But in real life, ballast on that section would wash away in a heartbeat. You'd have a massive problem. So we're going to do a little short section like that, and then we're going to come back over to our wooden trestle and continue on. Now look at that, we didn't have to cut any more. Well, we might have to cut one more down, but I think we'll be okay. So let's go ahead and extend this out. And are we going to use the ballast here? No, we are not. We are actually going to be using the retaining wall again, because we're still building height, and we're still far enough away that from the hillside here that ballast would wash away. fairly easily. Now, another thing that I choose the retaining walls for um, is basically aesthetics. You notice how this looks over here, and how it would flow naturally through this little valley, would cut this valley off. It wouldn't look very good. And as I understand it, water does not accumulate in this game, so it would just be a hole between the retaining wall and the mountainside or the hillside. So we're going to come back in here with our retaining wall and continue on. Now we're starting to lose the light, but that's okay because we're getting to a point where we're going to start making some real progress in climbing the mountainside here in a minute. So when sun comes back up, I'll go ahead and catch back up with you. But for right now, we're going to go ahead and put this retaining wall in wherever it'll go. Probably, well, it'll actually go in straight, so we'll do that. That'll go right about there. And I will cut, and we will be right back. Okay, so we are back, and as soon as it gets light enough out to see, we'll go ahead and continue on. But basically, you can start to see how this is just sort of extremely repetitive. It's not really not really very, I guess, entertaining would be the word, but it is it's thought provoking. It makes you really think about what you're doing. Uh, let's see, we're actually going to need to avoid going back into that gully for a minute, so we're going to come over here. We've still got a 1%. We may actually need to increase it a bit, but we'll see. We started fairly early on with our climb, but if we need to, we can increase it. So what we're going to do is we're going to come over here at about here, and we're going to start going in with the retaining wall, and we're just going to hug this cliff face as much as we can. That's as tight as I want to go right there. So we're going to go right here. It's too tight. Okay. So if anybody remembers me talking about the fact that when I was building the switchbacks, I should have been filming because I knocked one of the trains that off of the rails while I was test running. This is why. The rock face is actually too close to the tracks for me to be able to get in with the train and get past it. So we're going to come back over here. We're going to do all this again. We're going to put our radius back in and our slope back in. And let's see, we can do that. We'll stop right about there this time. And we'll go ahead and put our retaining wall in. Let's see what we can do now. Because ultimately our goal is to not so much bury the retaining wall. Actually, let's go ahead and do this. We're going to have to get closer to the side of that mountain, but we want to leave ourselves enough area that we can safely travel past. So we'll go ahead and put that in there. That's about as close as we can get. Okay. And let's go ahead and do this. And we may actually end up, I thought we were making more height than we were, but we may actually end up uh, not making it up to the top of this plateau here, but I could be wrong. We'll see what we can do here. So let's go ahead, get this moved out as far as we need to so that we can put the, oh, that's nice. We'll just leave it there. I was going to say, so we can put the retaining wall in, but we don't need to do that quite yet. It's not wanting to give us a straight enough face that we can actually do it. So we're going to come in. We're still going to hug the rock face here. And let's see if we can do it now. Let's see if we can put this retaining wall in. Yeah, it's not too horrible looking. Should be able to get it bent around to where it looks decent. Yeah, just like that. That'll give us a little bit of an anchoring point. Right about there. And it doesn't look too horrible. I mean, it could look worse, but certainly isn't too bad. And we're going to jump right back over into our bridge. And we're going to span this next little gap right over to here. And we're actually going to give ourselves a little bit shallower of a radius here, and we're going to go right here. Now we're still climbing. We are still gaining height slowly. I wanted this to be a easy climb. We know the Montezuma is not going to make it, but that's not to say that that a consolidation or a mogul won't at some point. Okay, let's see what this looks like. Yeah, that's too close. Okay. So we're going to come back over here. And we're going to try this again. Okay. Let's just see what we can do here. Put our height back in because we canceled out of it. Yeah, it'll be all right to continue on with the trestle, I suppose. Go ahead and snake our way back across. That's too tight, but it'll work for a moment. Snake our way back over here. Let's give ourselves a little bit more. So we're actually not going to have it go in that far. Okay. We're going to bring it back around. Now we're starting to get to the point where that hollow is, and I hope we've got enough height. If not, we're going to have to redo all of this. And that's not really something that I'm looking forward to doing. So let's see where we are in relation. Oh dear. Yeah, we're gonna have a little bit of an issue. So we got a lot of height left to cover, and we're not that far up. But I think we can make something work. We might have to do a switchback. Yeah, I hope not. Another option we've got is to go around the mountain. Start singing a familiar song if you know the lyrics. But yeah, that's another option because it does come out a ways, and I thought we could do it like this, but maybe we won't be able to. Okay, let's give ourselves a little bit of room here. Right about there. Okay. Let's see what we can do with our retaining wall. And you know, it's like I said, it seems to like to rain on this map. Well, if we were to put the retaining wall here, we'd have, in real life, we'd have water accumulating in that hole, and it would both wash out from under the retaining wall and would run up over the retaining wall. So that wouldn't be a good place to put that. So let's see what we can do about our radius here to get it. And a little hole like that is not going to concern me. It can fill up and wash over. It's not a big deal. So let's go right about here, right there. And we'll start coming back around. Bring it back around the other direction so that we've got a little bit of a curve here. And you can see it just kind of looks a little bit better than uh, all of it being a trestle or all of it trying to be a ballasted track where you've got, and I'll show you this here, where you've got this mountain of ballast. Yeah, to me that just looks like garbage, to be perfectly honest with you. So having the trestle and the retaining wall, kind of keeping it more compact, more seated in place, kind of really lends itself well to a more aesthetically pleasing appearance. So we're gonna just bypass that. I'll try and swap back to the retaining wall again. But what we're actually gonna do is we're gonna stop right about here, and we are gonna go in with the retaining wall on that. And the reason we're gonna go in with the retaining wall there is because of how that plateau sits. We can actually get it to mesh up fairly well. Let's go ahead and get rid of those trees. Yeah, we may have to get rid of this one too, so let's just go ahead and do that. Okay, let's go back here with our retaining wall and see how this looks. Either way, we're going to have to go through here at this point. Yeah, that doesn't look too bad. Bring it around so that we're not burying ourselves in the mountain here. And come to right about there. Now see, that doesn't look too horrible. I mean, it's not great, but we've still got the drainage on this side, so it looks okay. It just adds a little bit of realism and potentially a little bit of stability. Let's see, what do we want to do? Because that's our hollow right there. And we're nowhere near that height yet. But we're far higher than we were. So let's come back down here. Let's go back in. Whoops. Go back in with our trestle. And let's see. Let's give ourselves a little bit straight shot here. A little bit of a straight shot. Okay. About there. Okay. And you're going to see as we come over this little rise that we're actually quite a fair ways above the top station here for the switchbacks. But we are not quite high enough. Oh, hey, I didn't notice that. We may actually be able to get into this gully yet. Maybe. I'll have to come back around, but we might be able to do it. We're not quite to the height that we need to be at for much of anything else. So let's go ahead and put this right here. And we might have to come back around, but we can probably still use that gully that you see right there, that little hollow, to build ourselves a little bit of a loop on up and head on up. So let's see what we need to do here. Because our other option is to come around and follow the contour of the mountain and just keep coming around. Now that's an option, and it would look pretty picturesque, but I was hoping to avoid um, doing that. So let's see. Hmm. Let's see what we can do here. I'm just going to run a test piece here. So we can, yeah, see, it's not going to curve in. It's not going to be near high enough. Okay. So we want to bring it around. And we're still burying ourselves there. But we actually bring ourselves around to, let's run a straight piece here. Go right about here. We can actually run ballasted track on this side of this bridge. Get rid of the tree. This one back here. Get rid of this one. Come back here a little ways if we need to get rid of either one of these. This one. Okay. So we should be good to go on trees for right now. Now we're going to come back and we're going to use our ballasted track here for a minute. And we're actually going to go with the 5, well, let's go with the 1 meter, see what it can do. Yeah, see, we're already out. Okay, actually, let's go ahead and do this. Let's give ourselves a little bit of an abutment here. We're going to have to keep going in with the, it doesn't look right. We're going to have to keep going with the trestle. Okay. Shoot. Let's go ahead and put our radius and yeah, our radius and our slope in. We're actually going to come down a little ways. That will do it. Okay. So that'll give us what we need for our track, our ballasted track. So we're actually going to come around. See, we're still too high, so we want to level off. Okay, so that'll work there. It's a little bit more leveled off than I would like. But what we can do from here is actually come in with a switch and do one switchback if we really want to, and get our height started up toward that little gully. Now, the reason I was hoping to avoid coming around here to this side is because we would have to continuously be building more height as we go along. We'd have to contend with the rocks. We'd have to contend with the cliff face. Though, you know, that's not too big of a deal. The rocks are a little bit more of a tall order. But it's a much, 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 much longer run to try and get around all of this and still come up to the plateau. It's a much longer run. See, we're on this front side of the plateau, whereas here we're back in the valley. So to me, it would make more sense to try and work our, snake our way up the edge of the valley and go around to the plateau where we know we can see how much elevation we need to gain. And since this is a um, fairly shallow grade, we shouldn't have too much trouble putting anything in. So let's see. Let's do a right hand switch with a left hand throw. So we've got our right hand switch with the left hand stand, or with the left hand throw. Now what that is basically just a reverse of a typical switch. See how that looks? And there's why I don't like using switches on mountainsides. You see an undercut right there. It's kind of the opposite problem of burying the switch, which is equally as irritating. So let's see what we can do about making it so that we can actually use that switch. Let's bring it to about here. And we're going to go in with the same type of... Yeah, we're going to go in with the same type of switch. I had to think for a second. And we're going to come around here, connect it up, see how it looks. Much, much better. The grass kind of cuts in. We'll have to test that. It kind of cuts in a little bit, but I think we can adjust for that just a touch. But yes, that is much better. It looks much better. So let's go ahead and adjust for that by taking the radius a little bit further out. Stop there. Come back to our switch, which is our right-hand switch with a left-hand throw. And ta-da. It's not cutting in nearly as much. It's still cutting in, but it's not going to cause a derailment. That's fantastic. That's what we want to see. So we're going to go ahead and take the trees out that we need to take out, including this little guy. And we're going to see what we can do about bringing our line around so that we can actually utilize this as a switchback. Man. I don't think we're going to be able to. I think we're just kind of stuck here. Which means that we are going to have to... I think we're going to have to make this whole thing... Again, we're going to have to make this whole thing with a steeper grade. Which I guess is doable, and it wouldn't look too horrible, but, you know, wasn't something that I was hoping to do. Let's see. I want to try something before I commit to that, because that'd be an hour and a half of wasted time. Let's see. And I think it's a little bit irritating that, you know, you try and make a line that's shallow enough that these trains could climb it, and you still end up in situations like this where your tightest radius is just too much. Okay, so we are going to have to go ahead and redo all of this. which sucks because, it was working fairly well and I've already cut all those trees out, which is why I try not to do it while um, I try not to do it while I am building because it may end up not looking anything like what we set out for. So we're going to come back all the way down and we're going to start again. And this is not going to be, I think we're going to start from about, yeah, we're going to have to start from about here and we're going to have to start working our way back up. So I'm going to go ahead and do that real quick at the steeper grade and I'm going to go ahead and cut that out. And I'll get back with you guys when I get it fixed. Okay, so I wanted to go ahead and jump back in here and say and let you guys know that I've completely redone this line up here. And instead of running a 1% grade, we're now running a 2% grade, which means we're going to have a probably a logging locomotive, considering that it is a um, consistent grade. It's not in any way, shape, or form variable. And we are actually going to be able to make it into this little gully here to turn around. So we're going to see. Let's do the 50 right there. Yeah. Since we're going to have to use a logging locomotive, I suppose that's not going to be too much of an issue. But we did ultimately make it into this gully with the 2% grade instead of a 1% or 1.5. It's not the ideal situation, but it's certainly better than it could have been. So we're going to go ahead and do that. While we're going to stay climbing, we're going to move over to another portion or another method of track or another type of track. We're going to go back to our ballast here for a minute and see what it looks like. Let's start clip there. Let's go to our wall here. Yeah, that's a little better. Let's see if we can't actually do a little bit of looks like we're going to have to go with our trestle here real quick just for this little bit. Okay. Now, we are still on a 2% grade, I do believe, so 1.5, but we can make that 2 real quick. So let's go ahead. These trees make it difficult to build, I'm telling you. Let's go ahead and bring ourselves around. We're just going to stay on with the retaining wall, specifically because of the slope of the land here that we're dealing with. We're going to go ahead and get rid of some trees while we're at it. Now I try to take out as few trees as possible, but there are some that, they just can't be avoided. I think we're going to run into a problem here real quick. Let's see. Yep. Okay, so we build ourselves right into a hillside here, so let's do this. And we're going to bring it around the 2%. We're going to tighten up this radius a little bit so that we're not cutting into the hillside. And we'll run we'll run a 60-meter curve. Go back in here. Those. And we should be okay. Now, I probably could run ballast on this, but I think it would look better the way it is. So we'll go ahead and do that. And we'll run it around. We're going to stay on this 2% grade, and we're going to try and run it back around uh, in such a way as to enable us to go back on that same side of that. Yeah, we're just going to go right back around. We're going to go back on the same side of the mountain. Once I can get this right here done up right. That's not what I wanted. Back in here. Come over, grade in, extend that out a little. There we go. Okay. So we'll have to go with that. And we'll just bring it out around. And go right to right about there. That looks good. Now let's see what we can do about bringing that trestle around. Since we're going to be in kind of a low point, it'll look better. Okay. Oh boy. Okay, let's see. 40. And that's about as tight as I want to go, so I'd hoped we'd have got a little bit more height before we got in here, but there's only so much that can be done. Okay, that actually doesn't vary, so we'll go ahead and come back to our retaining wall, and we'll go in like that. And we'll actually bury that retaining wall just a touch and do it like that. Now that little bit of grass that touches the line, that's not gonna that doesn't concern me at all in terms of derailing the train. It's when you actually get the like that, the sturdier hills, like this right here, will derail a train. So we got to redo that. But come on, but something like that won't damage or won't derail the train at all. So I'm not too worried about that at all. Back over here. Yeah, that's a little bit better. We'll have to test it. But there's only so much that I can do on that. That's, I don't know if I put my gradient in that or not. That might be a thing. So let's try that again. Make sure we do. Bring it around. 50. 50 meter. Oh, let's go. Yeah, let's do 50. Bring it around to about there. And that's going to be about as good as it'll get. Okay. And we're going to go right back into the trestle, and we're going to go back the other direction. Because we actually need to start hugging this side of the line, or this side of the valley wall again. So we're going to start with 60 and just work our way out. Yeah. And by the time we get up there, it will be, or at least it should be, the right height for what we need. So come around, let's go right there, and we actually need to still come in toward the mountainside. So we're going to come right about there. I'm going to get rid of that tree real quick. And we're going to go back in with a retaining wall, and we're going to hug this wall. Or we're going to try to anyway. So let's go back in with our retaining wall. And bring the curve around the other way. Okay. It's about as tight as I want to get it, so we're actually a bit too close. So let's try this again. I don't know, a larger locomotive with more power may be able to manage this. Yeah, that'll work. We're just going to have to stay on with the trestle for a little bit longer. A larger locomotive with more tractive effort may be able to get up this mountains up this grade, but I think it would probably be more beneficial to have the logging locomotives do this. And I would run uh, the track right along the uh, ground here, but you can see there's a lot of variance in the actual topography. So it's not really easy to get a good slope going on these rails. Now, I don't think that we're as high as we need to be yet, but we can actually level off here. We can actually level off here a little ways. So let's go ahead and do that for a little while. Stretch that out a little bit more. Go back to our retaining wall. Yeah, not quite yet. Okay. So we'll do this. And we'll come back the other direction to just keep hugging this cliff side here. So let's do that. Let's see what we can do with the retaining wall on this. Should be good. Yeah, that'll work right there. And we can come around the other direction. And just kind of hug in this little area here. There we go. Let's give it a tighter radius. And we'll stop there. And plan our next move. You're here. We may actually need to go ahead and keep with the grade to get further up, but we've got plenty of room to do that. Bring ourselves back down. I'm actually going to get rid of that. I don't like it as much as I thought I would. Okay. We're going to put this in. We're going to start climbing again. But we're going to straighten this out just a touch. There. Let's do it 120. And we're going to go ahead and go back to our trestle. Oop, hello. Okay, now you see we're starting to get to a point where we've got plenty of height. We're going to have to go in with something really tall. So let's go ahead and close up that radius a little bit, see if we can't cheat ourselves a little bit here. And maybe see if we can't stay over in the shallower end of the gully here. Actually, can we? Yeah, I think what we're gonna do, instead of trying to do that, is we're gonna go back here and we're gonna take all of this back out and put our slope back in. Put our 2% grade back in. Not 2.5. Okay. My apologies for not talking too very much on this. It's genuinely a situation of, you know, um, you got to be able to think and do at the same time. So, ooh, come back here. Run away from me. Okay. Let's go ahead and put that in there. Yeah. Then we're just going to come back around. See what we can do about getting to the top of this little hill here so that we can level off. Oh dear. Well, okay. Let's see what we can do. So that we can level off, put a little bit of an abutment here, which we can do right there. And we can put ourselves in a nice tall bridge. Or we can curve it around and run the edge of the valley. Run the upper edge of the valley here. So let's go with our retaining wall. Let's see what we can do here for a minute. That's as tight as I want to go on that. Okay. Right about there. Yeah. Yep, and that's going to give us a little bit more of a bridge that we can manage. We're going to come around here this way. Huh, okay. So we are actually going to have to go ahead and do the steel girder bridge, which is not a big deal. We can do that. So we're going to come in here to our bridge. We're going to scroll down to where this looks like it's not even a bridge, but it really is. So we're going to do that. We're just going to leave it level for right now, because I think we're going to come right up to the hillside. Yep. Okay. So let's do that. Yeah. Okay. That will work right there. And we'll go ahead and put it in right there. And that looks kind of okay for what it is. I mean, we wouldn't be able to make that turn, so we've got to kind of do this. And I forgot to mute that again. Oh well, at least you guys know what my notifications sound like on my phone. Not that I want that, of course. Let's go ahead and bring this straight over. And we're going to be doing a little bit more mountainside hugging here as we get over. And we're already almost up to the top of or up to the level of the plateau. So perhaps this was the best way to go about that. But we'll see. So let's come down here again. We're going to go back in with the retaining wall. And we're going to keep going on. Let's give ourselves our 2% grade. We're going to come around as tight as we dare. Be about 40. And I'm actually going to I'm going to stop right there, and I'm going to go ahead and switch back to our trestle. Smooth that out a little bit. There we go. And we're going to come in. We're going to see what we can do about getting our track to work with a retaining wall for a short stint. Along this mountainside. That'll work. Okay. And that should be okay right there. Yeah. And I have a feeling by the time we get around to that little ridge you see there in the distance, we should be at just about the right height in terms of our track matching up with the plateau. Oops. So we're going to go back in here to the build mode. We're going to go back to our trestle. Actually, we're going to do this so I can... There we go. Build. Really? Build. There we go. Okay. Yeah, let's see what we can do about getting it turned around over here and get it lined up right where we want it over here. So let's actually bring it back a little bit so we've got a little bit of a run up. Yeah, that'll work. Okay, let's get rid of these trees. Yep, okay. Well, we're not going to quite be at the height of the plateau, but we're going to be awful close, and we may actually be able to work it that way. So let's go ahead and go back with our retaining wall. Bring it around. Give ourselves our height back. Slope. Gradient, whatever you want to call it. To about here, and then we're going to start our way back around. Be right about there. Let's see what we can do about making it straight up there. Yeah. There we go. Okay. That little pocket doesn't concern me. So come back around again. And we're actually going to go back in with our trestle. I'm going to bring it back the other direction. Now, the way I'm looking at this ridge right now, in terms of the track that we're actually laying, is I'm kind of looking at it as a little bit of a looks like we got some new weather coming in. A little bit of a scene break on a model railroad. So if we look out over here, we can see stuff that we shouldn't be able to see most anywhere else. And this is a different type of weather. This almost looks like a dust storm or something like that, which might actually be a thing because seasons do change in this game. So let's go ahead and take out our... And since we're in fair proximity to a desert area, I could see that a dust storm would be possible. And it looks like that's exactly what it is. Alright, so we are almost to the top of the plateau here. How about that? And not one switchback was used, and this is actually a shorter line than the switchbacks themselves were. So we're going to go ahead and keep Actually, we're going to go ahead and keep with the trestle for a moment. We're going to bring this around. I want it to go the other direction. But we're almost to the top of the map here, which is what we aim to be. I think we're about 45, 50 feet short. Let's go ahead and see what we can do with this. And there we go. Okay, so that's 30 meter, but we're not set on using the 30 meter. We're not going to use that. We're going to come around. Apparently this is a bad dust storm. So we're just going to keep coming around. Whoa. Okay, well, that got night quick. That's alright. We'll wait here for a little bit. And I will get back to you when it gets light out again. Okay, it's starting to get light out again. I went ahead and switched over to the trestle. We're going to keep in with that. I think what we're going to probably have to end up doing is coming around the back side of the plateau there, because for whatever reason, the map's not wanting to. I say the map's not wanting to work with me. I'm just not smart enough to figure it out. So let's go ahead and put that there. Get rid of all these trees while we've got time. Yeah, that's one thing that I wish this... I actually found out that this game, in this game, the trees do not regrow, which is kind of unfortunate because I end up making so many mistakes, and it would be nice if the trees would actually propagate. But unfortunately, that's not something that's been implemented in the game, and I don't think that it will be. I was looking the other day on Steam, and it looks like this game has officially been abandoned. It's been over a year since their last update, which is unfortunate because this is a very good game, and I would very much like to see more from it. And this is just a test. I don't really know where we are in this map yet, but we are definitely not high enough to be at the top of the plateau. Okay. We're almost there, though. That's not a big deal. We're almost there, and it will not be very much longer before we reach the top of the plateau. That's not what I wanted. Somebody caught that and had a good laugh. Okay. Out of the trees. We're actually going to go right to there. Remove more trees. And it's actually rather interesting that the weather... This is the first dust storm that this game has had in this map since I started filming this series. And even the unfilmed portions, the unfilmed running sessions and building sessions that I've done, this is the first dust storm that's been in this map, and all I did was play around with the dynamic weather. Just to try and change it up a little bit. So I guess we're going to find out if this is the only uh, only bit of weather that it has. I certainly hope it's not. I hope that it stays dynamic and we get rain and snow as well. But I'm sure we'll find out. Okay. So we are about at our... we're about at the point where we can start using the retaining wall for most of what we're doing. Since we're still kind of on the edge here of the plateau, we're not going to be able to use the ballast track very well. But we can certainly make a decent size run with the retaining wall as well as the trestle. I'm just going to put that right there. I'm going to get rid of that rock. Funny sounding rock. I'm going to go back with the trestle, and I'm going to curve it back the other way. And eventually we are going to find the top of the plateau here. Well, or it'll either be that, or with the sandstorm we'll end up 3/4 the way around the map. You never can be too sure. What did I just put down? I can't really see anything, but I'm not going to change the weather because it's just a little bit of added difficulty, which is fine with me. Leave it like that. Okay. No, that's not what I wanted to do. I'm being an idiot here. Let's do this again. There we go. Now we got that. Let's bring it around right about there. Let's get our retaining wall back. And we're going to come around. And we're just going to cap off this portion of the plateau here. Well, as much as I like the difference in the weather, I wish I could see a little bit. One, you can't even see where we've been or where we're going, and that's kind of a thing. Kind of need that sometimes. Oh, this recording is going to get cut so bad with all these noises. Okay, well, oh well. It is what it is. Alright, let's go ahead and bring this in a little bit. I think we are at the top of the plateau. I think I'm just kind of spitting against the wind here. Where are we at? Yeah, look at that. We should be right at the top here. That's not what I wanted to do, but I guess it'll work. We'll make it work, I suppose. Yeah, that's not. Okay. Now, let's try that again. 40. Give it right to there. And we'll come around. Yeah, we're going to come back around. We're going to bring it back in. Okay. And I think what we're going to do, since we're coming around from this end, is we're going to go around the back side. See, we could have just took this canyon. Could have just wrapped it around into that canyon, but I don't think that's what we wanted to do, really. So let's go ahead and take this out, and we're going to go ahead and get rid of our slope We don't want to climb down or climb up yet very much more. So let's do that. Bring it to about there. Let's see what we can get a bit further. And as the sand clears out, you can see that it's pretty well dusted everything. Make growing that wheat a little bit difficult. Okay. Well, maybe we should have just left that at 2 then. Sounds like it's raining again in the game, so maybe this will clear up faster than I thought. Okay. Let's leave it at 2 and bring it around. Okay. And now we can level off. Let's try that. That should work right about there. Okay. Now we're going to get rid of this big guy. I wonder if he's got a rock on him too. Nope. Okay. No rocks on that one. That's so funny. Every now and then you'll come by a tree that's got a rock growing, or that's grown up underneath a rock, and it rocks all the way up at the top of the tree. Strong dang tree. Okay. You can see how far up we've come. And let's see how far we've got left. Good. Yeah, see, that's where we got to go. Now, we're not going to connect to that today. I've got to figure out my process for the got to find my tracks. I got to find the process for the yard that I want to build. So I think with that, I'm going to get this back onto some ballasted track, and we're going to call it a day. So I do not plan to do any more of these build sessions. This is the last one. If, however, you enjoyed this, let me know, and I might do some more in the future. I'm not too particularly keen on them. I don't care to do the build session videos uh as much as I like the running sessions. But I wanted to revisit the previous build session and just kind of give you guys an idea of a better idea of what I was doing, what the tools were, and why. Um, I suppose, given that we're back on flat ground here, or more or less flat ground, let's go and let's see what we can do about figuring out a... Let's put a town over here, I think. Let's see what we can do. Because we got plenty of space here to put in a bypass. That's not going to be any big deal. So why don't we go ahead and do that? Okay, so let's get rid of that. And we're going to come over here and get rid of that. Okay. So I pretty well just shot myself in the foot for anything else that I wanted to do. Um, so we're going to go ahead and do this. We're going to go ahead and get our right hand switch with a right hand throw. And you're going to notice that it matches up exactly with the other one, which is, in fact, a right hand switch with a left hand throw. Okay, so we've got that in there. Well, that looks horrible. Kind of really wish that things would work out just a little bit better, but oh well. Go ahead and put our line back on here, our passing line. See what we can do about making this a little nicer to look at. Let's see what we can connect that. We're going to bring this back in right here. There we go. Okay. And then we're going to bring the curve back around. Now, I like to have my tracks, somewhat close together, but not. Shoot, that's too close. Yeah, not quite that close. Got to be right on top of anything to delete it, man. I'm telling you. Okay. Let's go ahead with that. Yeah, that looks a little better. Still not perfect, but it looks a little better. And we can go ahead and run a short section of straight track here. Let's see, right about there. And then we can connect it in. There we go. That's a little bit better looking. It's not perfect, but it looks a little better. All right, so we've got a couple of options here for another depot. Now, I wanted to put another depot in for a while because running the trains up and around and all this up and down the switchbacks gets a little monotonous. So we're going to come in here to our facilities. Oh, no, not our facilities, our industries, and we're going to find our freight depots. Now, I have the two DLCs in here, which one of them gives me this what's called a Red Mountain Depot. And that's the one we're going to use. The other one's just the bog standard rail depot. So we're going to do that. We're going to put this in right about here. Let's see if it's straight with the world here. It is. We're going to run that up. Let's do that. And I think, yeah. If I want to, which I don't, I can run telegraph lines out to the telegraph stations. But I don't want to because I've had nothing but issues with them in the past. So we're going to go in here with our left-hand switch with the left-hand throw. And we're going to come out. And that's basically going to be our station. Okay. It's going to be part of our station. So let's see what we can do here in terms of getting it close to where we want to be. Let's go right about there. And we'll have to delete it and put it back in. But what we're going to do is we're going to do something a little stupid looking. And we're going to go into our Red Mountain Depot. No, we can't do that. Shoot. No, we're just going to delete that other one then. Why it turned that off, I'll never know. Let's go over to all. Oops. All. Delete it. Go back in. Our Red Mountain Depot. All of a sudden I'm flying again. What the heck? Game. Okay, we're going to come over here. We're just going to kind of eyeball it right about there. Okay, so this little piece of track here that you just saw me put down was a test piece. Okay, I wanted to be able to get it to where I could go in like this and link it up to the depot. Now you're going to notice that's a bit higher than the other track. Well, that's because for whatever reason, dang it, the tracks for the industries run at whatever height they want to run at, regardless of the topography. So it's where it's at, and it looks stupid, but there's nothing I can do about it. So we're actually going to correct that by changing our gradient and bringing it down as we get closer to that switch. So hopefully by the time we get to that switch, we are back on the ground. And it looks like we will be. Okay. Straighten it back out. There we go. And connect it in. And match up our radius. And just like that, we should be able to connect it in with little to no problem. Okay. So that's going to be our little station. Now this uh, Red Mountain Depot, and I'm going to turn off my fly mode so you guys can see this here, is actually a freight and passenger depot. Here's our freight room, and we go in, and here's our passenger station. So it's kind of a two-in-one. And we've got our ticket office here. But it's kind of a two-in-one, so it's a little bit better than the bog standard freight depot, which is just basically just a freight depot. There's no stations, nothing. So we're going to go ahead and do that. And I'm going to break from recording here for a second. And when I come back, we're going to go ahead and put up a little town here. Okay, so we are back. And let's see what we can do about making ourselves a little town here. Now, I'm going to go ahead and drop a telegraph office in, even though we don't really need one for this area. Well, no, I'm not. Not yet. So what we're going to do in order to build a little town here is we're going to go into our construction mode, go over to props, and down here you can see it says select filters, all signs, buildings, and decorations. Well, we're going to start with buildings. And you can see we've got ourselves a nice little selection here. But the first thing we're going to do instead of that is we're actually going to come over here to decorations, and we're going to select the platform. And I think I want to start with the platform without stairs. And we're going to come over here and we're going to build out this platform just a touch. Primarily because I want to add in just a tiny bit of area. I want to add in a little bit more than what's there. So go ahead and do that and that. Now, let's see what we can do about straightening that up. Let's see what we can do about straightening that up. Let's come up here, top-down view. There we go. Okay. Back over to our construction mode, go to decorations, come down, pick up our platform without stairs. And there we go. And right about there will work. And then this should be fairly easy to line up. Just give it a little bit of an overlap. And it should line itself right up. Just like that. All right, now that doesn't look too terrible. I mean, it could certainly be a lot better, but it could also be a lot worse. And we're going to bring this in right about here. Actually, what we're going to do is we're going to come in here to our construction mode, and we're going to get the other one, the platform with the stairs. And we're going to turn it 90 degrees. And we're going to put it right here. Okay. Now let's not do it that far in. That looks like crap. Okay. Decorations. Come back here to this platform, put that in. And you can get pretty in depth with your creations. I don't particularly do that, but you can. I've seen people make some really interesting stuff, but I can't particularly get my head wrapped around that as well. Okay, let's try that again. It's not working. Okay, as the sun starts coming up, we are back, and I did finally manage to get it to work. For whatever reason, it wanted to move when I put it down, so it's like just trying to be a pain in my backside to get it put in. So I'm going to put one more section of this without stairs in, and I'm going to turn it back to 90, and we're going to put it right here. I hope, if this stinking thing will let me. Yes, all of it clipping through the other one, so we're just going to try this again. All right. Wonder how much of this is going to get cut out. This depends on how irritated I am when it's all finally done. That's close enough. All right, so we've got ourselves a little bit of a station here. We're actually going to come in here, and we're going to go into our buildings, and we're going to come down to our waiting shed, and we're going to let's do the red one so that it matches the Red Mountain Station or Red Mountain Depot, and we're going to go in like this. And we're going to put it right here. Just like that. Oh boy. Okay, so this game, if you don't have, like I said, if you don't have things just nuts on, it doesn't want to work right. And that's the issue that I'm running into now. So you can kind of see what's going on, what I'm trying to do, what I'm going for. So let's put it right here. It still moved. It still moved. And yes, it does matter, at least to me, how it looks. I know it may not matter to you, but you know, if you play the game, you'll play it differently than I do. Okay. Well, I got one side figured out. So you kind of see the process here of what I'm doing. I go into the menu, go to the specific one that I want, and bring it up, and it puts it roughly where I want it. Now that'll work. That'll work. And then I think what we're going to do I wonder if there is a crane. I haven't seen one in this game yet. Decorations. Hmm. No, it does not look like I've got a static crane, but I've got this guardrail. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this guardrail. We're going to run it over. No, we're not. Let's see. Decorations, signs, signs. Yeah. Um. Yeah. Let's just have a little fun here. Do something different. Hmm. Because this is different than what I've done for anything else. Actually, going to put this right here. If I can see what I'm doing, because this game absolutely loves to let me see what I'm doing. We're going to put that right there. Now, it's probably going to clip through a little bit, and it does, but that's not really a big deal. We're not too terribly concerned with that. It's no big deal, I say, as I get ready to try it again. Okay, so let's go back over here to buildings. Let's go back down to outbuilding, get the color we want. Back up here. Actually, let's put it over here. Let's put it over here. Let's just make it interesting, huh? How about right there? That looks all right. Bit far away from the thing, so we'll move it a little bit more. And this is the portion of the game that I very highly doubt anybody will want to watch for any real length of time. So I can't guarantee that um, this video is going to be entertaining to very many people. Okay, so that doesn't look too bad. That we can do. Kind of sections off that little area, and we can put cargo in there at some point. But you kind of get the idea of how the build process works, and we can keep adding. We can do things like decorations and add in a water tower over here just for fun. Now this water tower actually does not work. This actually does not work, so it's essentially useless. It's just set decoration. It doesn't even have any water in it. Would you look at that? Man, somebody left the tap running. Well, nuts. That's not what I wanted. So we'll go back in here to decorations, and we'll go ahead and start loading this. Whoops, this. We'll start making up this deck or this station here. It would help if I could actually get down to where I need to see. Thank you. So what I typically do when I build a station is I'll come in here and I'll put the benches in a 3x3 configuration just to kind of maximize the amount of seating that's available in this little waiting area. That's it. That moment you can't see with the fly menu on, and you got to turn it off, and everything goes nuts. Okay, so let's come back over here, turn this around, and all of the uh, yeah, all of the settings are about the same. You've got your angle of rotation, you've got your grid selection, your work grid selection, and you've got your slope, your degree of slope for up and down or side to side. And you can get some pretty interesting looking stuff going on in these. Now, if you have this game, if you play this game, and you decide to do something like this, it can look pretty interesting. You can make things you can make weird, really weird things happen. Okay, so that's normally what I do for the waiting area, but we're going to do something just a touch different for this one. We're actually not going to put these 3 benches in. We're going to have it half and half. No, that's not what I wanted. Okay. So we come over here to our build menu and we go to decorations. And we've got boxes, we've got barrels, we've got buckets, we've got hay, millet, a sack, I'm assuming of seeds or something, with wheat or something, Um, baskets, we've got a wood rick here, uh, cans of stuff, that's something. Oh, yeah. You get cans, wagon wheels, just a whole bunch of different stuff. So we're actually going to put this wood rick up here. We're going to put it right over here. And now I can't see anything, so I gotta go back to the fly menu. And we're not actually gonna put it there. We're gonna make it come over. We're gonna bring it over here. We're gonna bring it back around here. Uh, Actually, no, we're not even gonna do that. We're gonna wait on that for a little bit. Wrong button, Clyde. Okay. Decorations, barrels, closed barrel white. Well, it looks like an old barrel, doesn't it? So we'll go ahead and put that there. We'll put a couple here. There. They've been out, they've been weathering. Who knows? Put a couple of boxes in. Why not? Just put one there. Turn it. Put one there. Just kind of build yourself up a little scene here. Get back into decorations. Let's get another type of box here. Let's put this one on. Right about there. That looks all right. Okay, so let's see. It's raining out, so we really don't want to put anything that would get wet, but it doesn't matter in this game. We're going to put a closed basket, a closed wicker basket. We're going to put a couple of those here. And let's see. No, we don't want buckets. Let's put a bag of millet right here. Actually, make it look like somebody just tossed it up there. How about that? Okay. You can see that's pretty sparsely supplied here, but we've still got this little area here. So we're going to come in here and we're going to do this. We're going to get our hay. We're going to put it in here somewhere. Big hay, huh? Bigger hay bale than normal. But we're going to build ourselves a little hay stack here. We're just going to stack it 3 high because we don't really need to go any higher than that. Boy, that looks bad, doesn't it? First 4 went all right. Okay, so let's put that about there and right about there. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, that looks all right. Are they clipping through the back? Probably. Yep, they are. Okay. Oh boy. So we'll just do it all again. Levitating. Hey, whoops. Okay. That's nice. Well, that's going to be as good as it gets. All right. So let's go ahead and put these in. Let's see if we can't keep them from clipping through this. So 1 and a 2. And it's already trying to clip. All right. Dang it. And hopefully I don't. Hopefully it's right. Yay, that's a lot better. All right. So we've got that in there. Let's go ahead and put some stuff on top that you might not notice right away. Let's put a well, let's do this. Let's lean a sack up against it there. There we go. Maybe one right there. Just to see what we're doing. Potatoes. What do you know? Whole bag of my brains. How about that? Okay. So we got a couple of bags of potatoes. Let's go in and let's see what we can do. How about a box of fruit down here? Oh no. More brains. Potatoes. Okay, let's put that up there. It looks like fruit in the picture in the build menu. To show you here. Box. It says potatoes, but it looks like oranges. Okay, so let's come down here to Wickers and let's put some apples up here. Not on the roof. Not on the roof. Just like right there. Oh, that don't look right, does it? Okay, let's get rid of that. And we're going to leave that hay bale that I accidentally deleted gone. We're going to put them down here so that it looks a little bit better. You can't tell that it's actually floating, which is why it does that, I don't know, but you know, whatever. Get rid of it. Yeah, that'll be all right. So you can see we've got our freight depot pretty well stocked. We've got plenty of seating for people. And you can kind of get the idea as to, you know, what's involved with building a little town setting. And I'm not going to go through all that right now. I'm going to go ahead and do that off camera just to, you know, kind of have a little bit of free time to do it as I want to. But you guys kind of get the idea, and I hope this has been a little bit more in depth. I know I wasn't quite as vocal about what I was doing the uh, in the actual city building port or the actual town building portion of this, but one can only be so descriptive before somebody, you know, kind of gets tired of it. Okay, let's see if we can make that. That'll work right there. And then we'll put that right there. Okay. That'll work. I mean, for what it is, you know. So, all right, with that, I'm going to go ahead and call this episode done. And I will finish off the build process off camera. And you guys will get to see what it's like, see what it looks like after I get it done in the next running session. So until then, if you've enjoyed this video or even this series, go ahead and leave a like and like and subscribe because it does help me figure out, what videos you guys like, what videos you guys don't like. Um, and it kind of gives me an idea of what I can do for the series. And feel free to comment if you have any thoughts, if you have any suggestions. Feel free to leave them in the comments. I'm all ears. This building session, the ASMR stuff that I've got in the works for the running sessions, that is all from suggestions. So um, feel free to comment. Feel free to suggest stuff that I should show in this series. I don't particularly like to script out my videos, so just keep in mind, anything that's really done, like derailing or crashing or anything like that, it's not scripted. So you get to laugh at it about the same time as I laugh at it. So yeah, if you if you have any comments, feel free to leave them. I'm open to suggestions. I'm open to critiques. I'm open to feedback, as long as it's not deliberately harmful, deliberately hurtful. I'll hear it. I'll be glad to hear it. So, until next time, thank you for joining me, and I will see you again.